Hi, friends, and welcome to our next episode of Fiction in Real Life. I am Heather B. Moore, and I'm here with Julie Daines and Jennifer Moore. And we're excited to talk to you today about some strange and bizarre Victorian fashion trends. But first, we do have a giveaway for this episode. It is the new, coming out very soon, called Summer in the Highlands. It's a timeless Victorian collection by Nicole Van, Heidi Kimball, and Michelle Page Holmes. And to be entered to win this, all you have to do is comment on one of our platforms, YouTube or Facebook, and we'll give you a few days to comment, and then we'll draw a name and let you know. So, first of all, we have a couple cool stories. Let's start with Jennifer.
Okay. And mine is not actually a story. It's something that I heard on TikTok, and then I dove into a rabbit hole on the internet to find out more about it. And I wish I could have found more because it was fascinating. So you can put. Do you have one of the pictures up? This
Of
is
the
about
hats.
the other ones. The
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So this is about the Victorian era. People had living jewelry. So it might be kind of hard to understand what you're looking at, but these are bugs, crickets, maybe. I don't know, some kind of big bug that they had in England. And they have little jewels stuck on them. And I don't know what they stuck them on with, but whatever it wasn't something that killed them. They just stuck them to their shell. And you can see they have that little chain. So they would chain it on, and it was like your brooch could move around on your dress. And I guess it was super popular. People did it with cockroaches, and I guess whatever these are, crickets or beetles. Maybe beetles is the right word. And then also lizards. Chameleons were one of the best, most famous ones to use because they most popular, I guess, because you would, you have your little chain on your chameleon and he moves to your shoulder, and maybe it's a different color than the collar of your shirt, and he would, turn into that color and everything. And they were super interesting to look at, and they could just crawl all over your clothes and up in your hair and all over. And I was thinking about this, and it kind of reminded me in the like in the 90s, remember Paris Hilton had that little doggy, and like Elle in Legally Blonde had that little chihuahua. It was kind of like that. Like they had a living accessory and everything.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought it was fascinating. And I wish I could have found more pictures because I want to know everything about it. One thing I did find was there was the Egyptians kind of did something similar, but I don't think they kept them alive. I think they
like with the scarab beetle thing.
Yeah, the scarab beetles. I don't know if they just made, it was very hard to find this information. So I don't know if they just made their jewelry to look like the scarabs, or if they used the scarabs and put stuff on it and made like a ring out of it or whatever. But anyway, there's my, not really a story, but weird, interesting fact that I want to know more about. And I kind of want to do I want to bring it back? I don't know, because I don't think it's very nice to the animals, but like a little lizard with a bow on it might be cute, just sitting on my shoulder.
Anyway. Well, as someone who has a pet that often sits on my shoulder, you always have to be prepared for the poop that comes out.
Well, maybe the crickets or the beetles don't poop as much.
Yeah, well, they would poop, but it would be smaller and not like a chameleon poop would be nasty.
Yeah,
they eat worms and insects. And so their poop would be more gross than like, for me, it's a bird that just eats like seeds and, vegetables. I don't know. Maybe herbivore poop is way better than carnivore poop. That's what I'm saying.
So maybe it's like better on a coat, like on outerwear or something. I don't know. That would be my solution.
Easily. Yeah.
And I mean, what do you do? Is it a one-time thing, or do you take that beetle and put it in a little terrarium with food?
Probably.
And then
I would think so, because you wouldn't want to waste all that money on the jewels for one time wear, right?
Are they real jewels? Do they use glass? I just want to know everything about it, and it's very hard to find information about it. So
anyway. Would you book it, Jennifer?
I would book it, and I don't know. I would have to think of a very eccentric kind of an animal that random, crazy lady, grandma in the story has, like a tarantula or something that she keeps on a chain that, during the story, it's like kind of just crawling around, or I just think, I don't know, eccentric and weird and kind of cool.
I don't know if I agree with you, but Julie, would you book it?
Okay, not the tarantula. No, but I am definitely into, bringing your little pet along on the ride with you. I do feel like, in my mind, the Victorians were not very humanitarian about the whole thing, right? They didn't, I don't think, have a real great standard for ethical behavior towards animals at that time period yet. And so I kind of don't think it was a real great life for the animal that was chained onto the person, but I do love animals and I like pets and I like weird things. So, maybe
This is all of those.
I think it would be a really fun idea. Like, I don't know, just to have someone that's eccentric in a story and maybe that does it. But I definitely would stay away from the spider side of things.
Yeah.
That would be, I don't know, a little creepy. Yeah. But sometimes, I don't know, I feel like I've read stories and maybe, where someone keeps a little mouse or just some little creature that
a little familiar or something.
Yeah. So
like Julie does.
Yeah, definitely Victorian inspired. So what do you have for us, Julie, today? What stories?
Okay, so mine's not necessarily a fashion trend. It's just a random trend. And again, as we deal with these Victorians, they do weird things, right? So it was very popular at that time to make taxidermied animals, right? But they didn't just take a badger and make a badger. They did weird stuff like made unicorns. No, that's not me. There was this guy named Walter Potter, and he lived from 1835 to 1918, and he was, as it says in one of the articles I was looking up, a country taxidermist of no great expertise. But he liked to make these anthropological taxidermy things. Like his most famous one is the death and burial of Cock Robin. And
is that
it's
this
just
one?
this weird, it's just this weird thing. I don't know. He had this little tiny museum, and he just filled it with all of this random stuff.
Is that a bird in a coffin and they're having a funeral?
It's a bird in a coffin being carried by a couple other birds.
Okay.
So, and he had a two-headed lamb. I mean, he just made a bunch of weird stuff. And he anthropomorphized the animals a lot, And so he created this whole schoolroom of rabbits with a teacher rabbit and all these student rabbits. And he had this little kitty cat tea party thing. I don't know. It's just weird and not really something that I feel like would fly nowadays.
Do you know what though? They do that in Jackson Hole. Do you know what I mean? There's this.
Well, I guess I do, because even in Montana they've got jackalopes.
Yeah, jackalopes, or a little canoe with some squirrels that have paddles, or and little life jackets.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. I just think it's weird. And then to me, it brings in the question, where did all these cats come from? Did he just follow some country vet around until he found enough accidentally killed kittens?
Probably.
Or did he have to, make his
round
own
them up himself?
kittens?
Yeah.
So I don't know. So then that does lead us into the other picture, which is what they did with some of these random taxidermied animals. And that was that they put them on their hats. And they would just wear, clearly the bat one is the best hat ever made. But they just would walk around with a dead squirrel on their hat or worked into their hair arrangement. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I don't know.
Gotta be heavy. It's a little heavy, right?
Well, I would think it would be a little heavy, but once they're all stuffed up, they're pretty lightweight. Like I used to work at a museum that had a lot of taxidermied specimens and animals and stuff like that. And a little one like that, just stuffed up lightly, it's pretty lightweight.
It would feel weird because I feel like you're not just wearing a hat, but there's something like kind of like loose on your head and maybe out of proportion.
And
it felt awkward.
Do you think
if it's taxidermied properly, it shouldn't necessarily be smelly. I mean, it might have a little bit of a mothball or something type smell, but it shouldn't be like gross smelly, like decomposing animal smelly. But I don't know. It's weird, and it makes me think it's kind of something that not everybody did, just some people that were weird or rich or But Victorian fashion, I mean, just the Victorians in general, right? You just gotta love them. While I was looking for this, I saw a picture of some Victorian guy just in Egypt selling mummies on the street. I mean, they just did things.
Taxidermied people.
So would you book this, Julie?
Well, if I was really writing a book, I feel like you would kind of have to include something like this if you were writing in that era, if you wanted it to be accurate. And it's these kind of little details that are thrown into period novels and stuff like that, I think create depth and, kind of bring the period to life a little more than if you don't include stuff like that. So I think, I would book it.
What about you, Jennifer? Would you book it?
Yeah, I'd book it. And I actually did have a character in Solving Sophronia who kind of had a weird little hobby, and he would make little presents for people, like a squirrel wearing, an outfit like the character did. Or whatever.
I remember that, and it's totally period appropriate, and they loved it back then.
Well,
and people do love it.
I think I read somewhere that there are some ducks and some different birds that are extinct because Victorians use them for their feathers or put the dead duck on there.
They were not super ecologically minded, but what can you do? There goes the dodo.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to say I would, but I'm not going to say I wouldn't. I mean, maybe, but I do like the case for writing in that era and having, have it part of the story somehow, because it makes it more authentic and recognizes what their passions were and what their hobbies were. So, yeah.
And it's just so weird.
Very interesting. Very strange.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess, and then came the era of still, even through the 50s and 60s and stuff, the fur coats and the stoles and all of that. And it's kind of in some ways not that different. Just
I know. What are people in 200 years are going to be like? Can you believe the people in the early 2000s did whatever? I don't know. What are they going to say about us? Like that we ate animal meat, or
and it's even different countries, different cultures. I mean, even today we would maybe think, oh, why do they do that in their culture, or they question us in ours as well. So even though it's everybody, it's kind of modern for everybody relatively, there's still a lot of differences. Well, this has been fun, very interesting. Some things have been bizarre, but that's always good. But so thanks everyone for joining us today. And of course, we always love to hear any stories you want to submit. Just email us at fictionirlauthors@gmail.com. And we will see you next time. This has been
Fiction in
Real Life.
Yeah.